Hi guys, Starla Moore here, and I'm going to be continuing my iPicky training series today. If you missed videos 1 and 2, be sure to look those up because on those videos I cover how to remove a background or edit a photo of your products on a white background for Etsy, and also how to edit your photos over a dark background, like if you want to take them on a black background or just a very dark colored background. But today what I'm going to be covering is how to edit a photo on a natural background or a lifestyle type photo. So of course there are a million different ways to do this, and obviously I can't show you every single way or every single background that you could be editing, because you might want to take a photo of your product in your home, or you using it, or maybe it laying in the grass or on a blanket. It just depends on what type of product that you're trying to sell and how you want to display it. So these photos aren't the photos that you should be using for your thumbnails in your Etsy shop. I always recommend using a consistent white background for those, as you've probably heard in a lot of my other videos. But for these types of photos, they're good for marketing, they're good for using in your shop updates on Etsy, and they're good for using in emails and just posting to social media. So these are like the grabbers. These are the photos that, and you can use them as secondary photos in your series of 10 photos that can be added to your listing. These are the photos that we're basically going to use for attention. These are the pics for attention photos. So, and obviously you're going to need to have a brief understanding of iPicky, assuming that you've already watched videos 1 and 2 of this series. So if you have not, be sure to go back, because otherwise some of this might get confusing. So assuming that you already know how to get onto iPicky, which is a free website, and you already know how to upload a photo into your photo library, we're going to start from there. So I have one of my products that actually ended up selling out really quickly during my pre-launch event for my Wonderland collection. So no, this product is not available, but I took a lot of pictures that I didn't even end up getting to use, and I thought that this would be a good one to start with to show you how I edit these pictures. Now, this particular product I actually hung the key from a branch of a tree in my yard. And it can be as simple as that. You don't need to stage some ridiculous photo shoot for your products. You can take them right in your yard. I've never went to crazy photo studios, and I've heard of people hiring photographers and everything else, which, I mean, that's fine, but it is absolutely not necessary, and it's not something that you have to do, especially when you're on a budget. So, and with iPicky being a completely free website, it is an amazing alternative to Photoshop or some of the more expensive photo editing programs. So, and you can pretty much do all the same thing. I mean, I have never had anyone doubt or, ask me, do you use Photoshop? Because they automatically assume that I do. So this is our little secret. All right, guys. So the first thing that I need to do, obviously, is kind of rotate this photo around and flip it so I'm looking at it correctly. And then I'm just going to kind of edit this and explain to you what I'm doing as if I was editing this product for my own shop, okay? So for this particular product, and this is a good technique for jewelry, is to just hang the product from a branch or a tree. And what you're going to want to avoid is making sure that there's nothing distracting in the background. I have the bark here, but if I were to have taken this at an angle, you would have seen houses and cars behind the product. And, we don't want any of that. We don't want power lines or vehicles or anything crazy, which in some cases you can edit those things out using iPicky, but it takes a lot of time, and we want this to be quick and easy. I mean, that's kind of the whole point. So, all right, the first thing that I'm going to do is go into the exposure tab under the very first basic tab, and I'm going to turn up these highlights just slightly, but only on the product. So I'm going to click the brush setting and click reverse effect. And then I'm going to go in with the manual brush, which you can change the size right up here. And I'm just going to go in and very briefly kind of paint in a little bit of highlighting on the product to give it some flair and make it stand out on the background a little bit. And with this technique, obviously you don't need to be precise as long as you're not completely cranking up that highlight, which you don't want to do anyway. Otherwise, you're going to wash out your product. An example of that real quick is if I were to just grab this and crank it up, it looks ridiculous. So we're going to put that back down just a little bit. All right, and the number, this I turned up the highlights to 15, but that number is completely going to depend on the lighting situation when you took the photo of the product in the first place. So, all right, so the very next thing that I want to do is remove any flaws that could occur. And this isn't going to apply to all products, but a lot of the times there might be like a fleck of dust on your product, or in this case, I see what looks like a very small hair here, which is probably a cat hair or something, I don't know. But it happens, especially on jewelry and when you're taking such a close-up photo. And other cases where you might see this happening is little lint particles on fabric if you make fabric products. So what I'm going to do is go into this little retouch area, which is meant for retouching faces, but it is amazing for removing dust and blemishes from your product. I'm going to go into the shine remover, and anytime we have a light area that needs to be removed, we're going to be using shine remover. Anytime we have a dark fleck or a dark piece of dust or debris, we'll be using blemish fixer. So starting with shine remover, we want this to be an itsy bitsy little brush, which we might even have to adjust a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to get right up on this little fleck of hair or whatever it might be. And no, this little fleck of hair is not included in my product. This is not part of the deal. And we're just going to kind of tap it out until it's a little bit smoother. And then I also like to kind of enlarge the brush, and this will blend it. And then we're going to go back, and it's like it didn't even happen. Okay, so the next thing, and once again, this is another optional edit. Pretty much everything today is going to be optional. These are just to help you get ideas on how you can use this program for your photos. But what I personally do with photos that I take against this tree is I like to remove the color from the background because I like to put in my own colors. So what I'm going to do is go into hue and saturation. We're going to turn the saturation down all the way. And then I'm going to click reverse effect. And then I'm going to go in with the manual brush and kind of remove out this color from the tree. And this is going to make the product really pop. And then another thing I'd like to mention, which I've mentioned, I believe, in both of my previous iPicky tutorials, so excuse me for sounding like a broken record, but I also like to go into the product itself, and if there is anywhere where the light has reflected color into the product that does not exist, and this is mainly going to happen if you're photographing something with a metallic surface or silver jewelry in particular, you're going to want to go in and kind of remove any of that color that doesn't complement the product. I like to leave all of these blue tones in the products, but there's also a lot of green and yellow because I did photograph it outside near a tree, and these photos kind of reflect in the product and take away from that really crisp look that I want to advertise with my silver jewelry. So we're not going to remove any colors or add any colors to the product that will distort what the customer will actually be receiving. Obviously, if you do that, you're going to have unhappy customers when the product arrives. But I'm going to go in and just kind of remove some of this yellow and green from the branches of the tree. Okay, so now that I have this color kind of where I want it, I'm going to show you a few more optional edits that you can do to kind of make your product stand out a little bit more. Don't forget to click apply. All right, so as with both of my previous tutorials. You can also sharpen up this product, but make sure that when you use the sharpness and clarity options, you're not cranking them up all the way. And I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like when you do. Obviously, this makes your product look really animated, and the sad thing is I see shops do this where they turn up these features way too much. So we'll start here so I can show you exactly what the difference is. But we're going to go ahead and turn up the clarity just a little bit, and there isn't a whole lot of difference, but it deepens the darker spots. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it. We'll turn it off and back on. And what this is doing is it's kind of adding a little bit of contrast, and especially for silver jewelry, it makes it look a little bit shinier for the photos. And then I like to also turn up that sharpness a little bit. And then we're going to click apply. Ta-da! Okay. So another thing that I also like to show off is if you do watermark your photos, which obviously don't recommend you sticking a big ugly watermark on your photos because it kind of takes away from the actual image. And a lot of people do it thinking that, you know, this is going to keep people from stealing their images, but it doesn't, because most people know how to crop out a watermark or remove one, and it's as easy as going in with a tool just like iPicky and blurring it out. So don't add a watermark for the sake of, you know, trying to save your product photos. The reason that we're going to add watermarks to our photos is to create a sense of brand identity. And I add these watermarks to photos that I post to like Facebook and other social media platforms where people are going to see my simple logo and know automatically, okay, that's one of Starla Moore's products. Because I am not the only person who makes skeleton key necklaces like this, but I am the authority in the skeleton key market, and I do have the top rated skeleton key necklace. So I want people to be able to see my logo and know, okay, that's one of Starla's, you know? So if you have a watermark, it doesn't even need to be a PNG, which is really awesome when it comes to iPicky. You do not need a PNG file. You just need to make sure that your watermark is on either a black or a white background. And for this particular photo, I'm going to go ahead and use the white version of my logo. I recommend making sure that you have a version of your logo on a black background with your logo being white, or if your logo is black, doing that over a white background. Or if you have color in your logo, it might make things a little bit harder, but just having a dark and a light background will allow you to actually place it onto different photos. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second, but we're going to go ahead and go into this layering option of the program. We're going to click to add a photo, and this is where we would normally upload our watermarks, but I already have them saved into my photo library, so I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so here's the dark version, which I will drag right here so I can show you how that works. And here is the white version of my logo, which I'm also going to show you how to apply them. Even though for this darker background, ideally I would want to use the white version. But we'll go ahead and start with this black version. What we're going to do is drag it onto the photo, and then we're going to go into these different layering settings. And this right here is all you really need to do. You find the option called multiply, and we're going to select that. And then we have what is basically a PNG. It removed the white background for us. So we'll go ahead and stick it on there. And then we're going to kind of fade it out a little bit. That way it's not so right in your face. And you can fade it to wherever you want. But for this photo, I'm not going to use this black one because you can't really see it. So we're going to do it with the white. And for this one, there are actually two different options. You can either use lighten or screen, and screen is going to make it a little bit brighter and bolder and bring out a lot more detail. So I definitely recommend the option called screen. We're going to find where we want to put it, and we're going to fade it out. Not quite so big. And maybe on this side because it is a little bit darker. And maybe fade it out a little bit more. There we go. And then this little guy will just delete. Okay, so now we have a watermark on the photo. So we're going to go ahead and click apply. And ideally, you'll want to add that watermark to your photos last if you have one, because in the process of editing, you could end up, editing over the watermark, I guess you could say. Like if I wanted to go into exposure and darken up some spots around this key, so this key kind of stands out more, you're going to lose the watermark. So, but these are all really cool options, for editing. You can go in and increase highlights. You can increase those shadows, kind of like what we did in the editing a photo on a dark background tutorial, which once again, be sure to check my channel if you missed that. But another, and probably my favorite option on iPicky, is this textures option, which we haven't had the opportunity to use yet. You can upload your own texture, and my recommendation is to find a site that provides royalty-free wallpapers. If you want to do something extravagant, like an interesting scene, or, some photo vectors, or, just, you can add any kind of background, honestly. Or you can also get on the website deviantart.com, where artists actually post their artwork, and a lot of times you can find artists that put up free artwork that you can use for whatever you want. Or if you see a photo that you really like, you can always contact the artist and ask them if you could use it for your photo. And I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is they say no. So, and I've collected so many awesome backgrounds that I use over and over and over again, just from artists who do it for free for fun. So, but if you don't want to go through all of that, there are tons of options that come default with iPicky. So we can go into the paper setting, and there are these really cool features that you can put on your photos. And once you find one that you like, which we can go ahead and do this one, because this is kind of an orangish tone and I don't like that, you can also go in and click ignore texture color, which is going to remove that redness or that orange. And then you only have this weird script that I don't think actually spells anything. And then to show you just some more examples of how you can use some of these, you can go in again with your effects mask, can't talk today, your effects mask brush, and go in and actually erase out the areas that are on your product. So for this one, it's kind of like some paper script, and I don't want it on my product, so I can go in and easily remove all of that. And it really makes the product stand out. And this obviously will work with any of these awesome backgrounds. I'll be sure to show you a few more of the different backgrounds and textures that iPicky provides after I finish up this one. Okay, so I have removed all of the text or whatever it is from the key itself. And when you're ignoring the texture color, it's a lot easier, especially for this particular mask, because if I were to actually click for the texture color to be back in, you can see all the spots where I didn't remove. But because there's no actual color here, when I click this, you can't even see it. So, all right. And then you can also fade this out a little bit if you don't want it to be so bold. You can flip it around. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel this one because though it looks very cool, it's not quite what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to the setting called grunge and click through a few of these options, which I like these a lot because some of them you don't have to do as much to, like honestly, this photo would be fine how it is. If I didn't want to go in and actually erase all of this and I was just using it for marketing purposes, you can see that it's a silver key and that it's not grimy looking. So, but I'm going to go ahead and cancel that one, go back and click through a couple different ones. I really like this one. I've actually used this one several times on some of my photos, and it looks really good with the already existing background. Click through a couple more. And then we can click through, there's some fabric textures. I don't think I've ever used any of these for my products, obviously, because I make keys and a fuzzy carpet texture doesn't really do my products any justice. Light leaks is a really fun one, and it kind of gives it like that, I don't know, like Instagram vibe, I guess you could say. There's a couple different options, but you can always go in and click this ignore texture color if you're not much for the colors, but you still like this kind of light look. And then this is a really fun texture for Christmas time and the holidays. And if it seems too bold, you can always just reduce it a little bit and give those little light spots. Lots and lots of really neat features. Okay, canceling out of there, let's go into the materials tab. I don't even know what this is. It's like blue spaghetti. And then we have almost like a leather texture. This has like a burlap kind of look to it. I'm not even sure what these are. This water texture is really neat if you have some type of aquatic themed product. And then you can go into nature. We have grass, some water beads, fire, ice. This one is really fun for Christmas time. A leaf and some puffy clouds. It looks like my key is flying. Okay. And then the last one is miscellaneous. And we've got some smoke. Some cracked dirt, some kind of cobblestone. I'm not quite sure what this is. This actually looks neat. It made the silver jewelry look very crisp. And kind of some dirt. All right, guys. Well, there were some awesome techniques on, adding a different texture into your product. And if you want to go with one of these really crazy textures, like say I wanted to make this key look icy, but I wanted to remove the actual texture from the product, you can always go in and use your brush and very carefully, which it is time consuming, I will tell you that. But you can go in and obviously erase with your manual brush, but I definitely recommend being careful while you're doing it and not doing it as fast as I'm showing you right now. That way your product doesn't actually take on the color of the mask. But for marketing purposes, it's not that big a deal as long as the actual product photos, when they go to purchase the product on Etsy or wherever you're selling, as long as those thumbnail photos don't show this product with this blue mask over it, it's fine because they're seeing what the product actually looks like. These marketing photos are just for fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. That was how to add different textures to your photos. You can also go into the photo effects tab. If you just want to add a slight effect, you can add a couple different masks down here. Anthony is probably one of my very favorites. And I see a lot of people using masks like this, but there are several others. Jennifer, and you can fade these out a little bit. And as always, you can go in and erase with the manual brush if you choose to. Susan, Henry, I've used Henry quite frequently. Robert, they all have like people names other than Polaroid film. Okay, so you guys kind of get the idea. And then we've got this Lomo, which I think that a lot of people have probably seen this on different photo apps. It kind of turns up the bloom a little bit. But there are so many really cool features that you just got to jump in and start playing with them, because I mean, I could sit here for hours showing you all of these features and how to use them. I mean, you just got to play with it. You got to have fun with it. And a lot of them, they tell you to click where you want to focus color. And then there are some gritty textures. There's a bloom option, which kind of softens the image. You can tint the color of your whole photo. And one of my favorite ones for the holidays is this snow option, because you can go in and add some snow. I usually get rid of the border I don't particularly like having the border, but you can do this coldness option, which kind of makes the screen a little bit blue. And then you can also pick the size of your snowflake. So if you want it to be like a blizzard, you can crank it up, or you can give yourself some like big snowflakes. This is another really fun one. And then of course, if you want to kind of get rid of the snow on the product, if you don't want the snow to completely cover your product itself, you can go ahead and delete those. So with your manual brush. But yeah, all right guys, this was one example, and if you guys need to see more examples, or if you want me to actually upload some more photos, or if you have a background idea, say that maybe you want me to show a tutorial on how to edit a picture of a product laying on a piece of fabric or on, you know, in the grass, just let me know in the comments if there are any particular backgrounds that you're struggling with after you test this, or maybe there's a background that you have in mind that you really want to use, or if you just liked watching this video and you enjoyed watching the editing process live in action. Feel free to let me know, and I can definitely make some more of these, because this editing process, I do it daily and it doesn't take a lot of time for me to record it. So, all right guys, as always, make sure that if you haven't already, grab my free ebook in the description below on how to gain a fanatical following of fans on Facebook for your business page. This is the same method that I use for my own business, and it has given me loads of success and so many amazing fans who rave about my product. So obviously you got to have a following if you're going to sell products on Etsy. All right, guys, if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you want to see next. Talk soon.